Hello, welcome back. In case you're new here, my name is Monica Glass, and I am a chef and wellness coach on a mission to help you live your most joyfully nourished life through the kitchen. Today, we're going to be making a super simple, pretty quick dinner for you. So hopefully that if you're cooking along, I don't have the recipe up there yet. I thought that I did, but I just realized I forgot to type it up on there. So it'll be up afterwards, so you can just follow along. And I'll guide you through with my ingredients. But anyway, we're gonna make super simple, veggie forward, has some protein in the shrimp and some carbs. You can use rice. I already cooked some rice, so I'm gonna plate with it. You could use it with pasta. You could put it on top of potatoes. That could be okay. Whatever you want, you can make it whatever you want. But so far, what I have all my mise en place out. So I have some beautiful oishi shrimp that I peeled, and they already came deveined. Just made sure that they did. But you'll want to make sure that you peel your shrimp, devein them if they are not already. Oishi they're delicious. I love using these. I got them from Samuel's Seafood in Philly. You can leave the tails on if you like to, or you can take them off if you want to. I like leaving the tails on. I know they're a little harder to eat because you have to pick off the tails, but they add that little oomph for presentation. I have some tomatoes on the vine. And the first step that I'm going to do is blanch these so I can peel them. You can absolutely skip this step if you don't mind the tomato skins. I think it produces a more luxurious sauce and just nicer. It's easier to digest without the tomato skins. And we don't really need them in the sauce. But if you don't want to take the time to do that, to blanch them, by all means, you don't need to. I also have some chopped tomatoes here. You could always use more fresh tomatoes if you want, but I think it adds a nice kind of more saucy quality with the chopped tomatoes. You could also use tomato sauce if you wanted it a little on the thinner side as well. I have a little bit of heavy cream, so that's about 3/4 cup of tomatoes, about 1/2 cup of heavy cream. I have 3 cups of spinach. Feel free to use spinach, use kale, any type of green you want. You can also omit it if you don't like any of those. Totally fine with just the tomatoes. I have a shallot. You could use 1/2 of an onion if you'd prefer. 3 cloves of garlic, 3 tablespoons of butter, some basil, and some Parmesan cheese that I'm going to be grating. So let's get started. It looks like my water is up to a boil. So I like to use these sweet tomatoes on the vine when they're not quite ripe yet, because it is still winter, almost springtime. And I think they have a nice sweeter flavor to them. You can use whatever your favorite tomato is. In the summertime, even Romas will taste great with this. Same process if you use big tomatoes or small tomatoes, absolutely fine. Because these are little though, I'm only scoring them with a little slit. If you were to do them on the big tomatoes, do a little X, it'll help peel the skin faster. But since these are small, we don't need that. I'm just taking my knife and really gently piercing the skin. All right. And then what we're going to do is put them in the water. I know you can't see that, but I have it over there for now. But they're going to boil, simmer for about a minute, maybe 30 seconds. I'll take a look. You'll start to see the skins peel away, blister away from the tomato. We don't want to actually cook the tomato yet. So that's why it's only going to take 30 seconds to a minute. And then I have an ice bath in the sink. I'm going to put them in there, cool them down, and later we'll come back and peel them. Meanwhile, all right, it's almost there. All right, they are looking good. Okay, now we're going to start with our shrimp. Peeled, deveined. I'm going to season them with just a little salt and some pepper. And get our heat on. Medium-high heat. And then we're going to turn it lower to sweat our shallot when we're ready for that. That one. All right, the shallot. You can either use a knife to slice it. You can use a mandolin if you have one, if you're not too scared of it. But But we're going to cut the shallot in half. I already peeled the outer layer just for time's sake. But keep the root intact because I'll show you on both ways. If you want to slice it, just go through and thinly slice it. We don't want big chunks. Or you can go through, cut that part off, and use your mandolin. Same thing, about the same amount of time. Whichever one you're more comfortable with. And I also have the mandolin for the garlic. Shrimp. Just a little, about 2 tablespoons of oil, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. Let that heat up. And then we're going to put our shrimp on there, sear each side just until it's done, about 1 minute to 2 minutes. You can hear that nice sizzle. All right, covering the pan, the bottom of the pan, not the pan. And now I'm going to slice my garlic. Same thing with the shallots. You feel free to slice them with a knife. I think it's a little faster with the mandolin, but whatever you feel comfortable doing. Now I am just slicing my garlic so they look like little chips. I think it adds a nice, beautiful texture. I like the way that the garlic comes out in the tomato sauce this way, and it just looks pretty. If you don't want to slice your garlic, feel free to mince your garlic too. The recipe is up to you. Just be careful when you get closer to the tip. Okay, garlic is done. Right back in my bowl. Check these shrimp. They should, yep, they're looking good. Still be translucent on the one side and nice and opaque and brightly colored on the seared side. And then once these are done, so I'm going to actually turn down the heat now to finish them so we can have the pan ready for the shallots. These will look beautifully, can you see that? Just kind of beautifully opaque. And this is done, so not even a minute on the other side. Just putting them in a bowl, they smell really good. Also, a tip that I have that I love to use is the shells. Don't throw away your shells. Save them until you use all your shrimp, and then you can make a beautiful shrimp stock. Make some shrimp risotto. I actually made that the other week. Soup. It's coming into summer soon, and we can make my crab and corn chowder. Right now I'm adding my 3 tablespoons of butter, and this is why it's called a tomato butter sauce, because it has a beautiful butter flavor. If you don't want to use butter, you absolutely don't have to. You could just use oil, and you don't need to use all 3 tablespoons of oil. You just want enough to really sweat your shallots and blister your tomatoes. But I do recommend it. It tastes good, and you're not eating a huge portion of the butter. And just make sure you use good butter, good grass-fed butter. Okay, now that is done, put our shallots in there. We're just going to sweat them. I just have my shrimp hanging off to the side from there so you can see them. We're going to add them back in at the very, very end. But I like to do it in the same pan. The same reason why, like, you're going to save the shells, your shrimp shells for stock. They infuse a nice shrimp flavor into the dish as a whole. And it's really about building those layers of flavor. And that's how you develop depth and complexity in a dish and a recipe. It's not cooking it all at the same time. Sure, we could also throw the tomatoes in here and the garlic at the same time, but if we really take the time to low and slow sweat our onions, it's harder to get it to a tiny flame on here. If we take the time to really sweat our shallots and onions, it'll bring out that nice natural sweetness of them and develop the flavors a little differently and more depth of flavor. So I'm going to let that go. A bowl for my tomatoes. Okay, so now you see here, the tomatoes, the skins are starting to peel off around them. So it's super simple. It just comes almost like a flower. Like if you've ever seen a gooseberry, it's kind of like those tomato skins, but still on the tomatoes. Container. And again, if you're just joining, you feel free to keep the tomato skins on if you like them. I just prefer not to have them in a dish like this or tomato sauce because I think they just kind of break it up. They don't fully blend in or dissolve, so you have like weird tomato skins and chunks in the sauce. And also they're just not as easily digestible, or at least by my body. Shallots are looking good. They're smelling really good. And see how easy this is? It's just an extra like 2 minutes. 2 minutes prep and it'll elevate your dish by a lot. I'll show you guys when I'm done. I'm almost finished. Got 3 more. I can't wait till summertime and growing some tomatoes. There they are. Wash my hands. Last year, I grew, I think, what did I do? Like 4 different varieties of tomatoes in my little South Philly back patio. And I think I really only got to eat 1 or 2 tomatoes because the squirrels got to them last year. So it was a little too late in the season, but I bought netting, and that is what I'm going to use this year on my tomatoes. So wish me luck. Fingers crossed. Okay, we have our tomatoes. Our garlic goes in next, and then our tomatoes. Meanwhile, we can also start grating our cheese. So the way that I like to grate cheese is just over a little piece of parchment paper. Makes cleanup super easy. You don't have cheese all over the place. It's just in one contained spot. And then also you can pick it up super easy. So say you just want to dump that right into there. It's about 3 ounces, half a cup, I think. I'm eyeballing this, but the recipe will be up on the website for you. If you want it a little cheesier, use more cheese. If you don't want cheese at all, which I can't imagine, cheese is delicious, but feel free not to use any cheese. Okay, our shallots are looking good. They're getting a little translucent, not too much color. So I'm going to add the garlic. Actually, I take that back. No garlic. We are going to add, yes, I'm going to add the garlic. I'm going to add the garlic first. We're going to get that going for about a minute until we really start to smell it. It becomes fragrant. You don't want to burn. Don't want to burn the garlic. You just want to cook the garlic so you don't have that raw garlic flavor. And it'll continue to simmer in the sauce too. But here we'll saute it a little bit. Just trying to break them up. And if your cloves are a little on the smaller side, feel free to use a little more garlic. If they're larger than mine, feel free to use a little less. And now we're also going to season. Just like we're building layers of flavor, I like to season in layers. So we seasoned our shrimp, seasoning the shallot and garlic. All right, I'm starting to smell that garlic, so I'm going to add the tomatoes. I did forget a skin. Half a skin. There we go. And we're just going to cook these until the tomatoes start to pop and really, they're not going to blister since we already took the skin off, but they'll still pop and get softer. And turn the heat up a little bit to medium. And they'll really release their juices too. Once they start to soften as well, you can start to press down on them to really help them release their juices. This would actually be a fantastic dish for the summertime, using the basil that you grow in the garden, the tomatoes that you can grow in the garden if you like to garden as well, like I do. Someday I want to have a nice big garden. And also, say if you don't eat seafood, you could make the same sauce, do the same dish, but with chicken. Sear your chicken in here first so you can really develop that, that nice flavor of the crust of the seared chicken. I always like to do chicken with the skin on, like breasts or thighs with the skin on, but you can just as easily get a nice flavor with a boneless, skinless chicken breast. Pop any of them? Not yet. Just the little guys. Also, while we have some time while the tomatoes cook, if there are any recipes that you would like to learn how to make or see, please leave the comment below. I love to see your comments. I love to see your messages on things that you make or recipes that you're creating at home from my recipes. If you want to learn anything specific, I am happy to help. I'm trying to think of some good asparagus recipes coming up because it's going to be spring. March is the time for green, although this past week has been kind of blah in Philadelphia. We are getting ready for green, St. Patty's Day this weekend, and all of the green vegetables coming in the markets. All right, tomatoes are starting to pop and get soft, so now I'm going to add my tomato sauce. Diced tomatoes, chopped tomatoes. This gives it an extra little richness, tomato richness. Okay. I always recommend tasting your recipe throughout. If you've been on other classes of mine, you'll know that. So now I'm going to season this a little more. Like I said, we season in layers. Develop those layers of flavor. Sometimes I can't talk. I'm going to go through and smash some of the tomatoes. I like to keep the tomatoes to have some texture, but I also like to smash some of them so it's a little saucier once they start to release. release their juices, sorry. All right. Looking good. Now I'm going to add our heavy cream. Give that a mix. Bring it back up to a simmer. And we're going to thicken the cream just a hair. And I'm also ready with my spinach and my cheese. Juice it. I love watching the bubbles and the tomatoes have changed shape and texture. And I truly believe that cooking with all of your senses will really enliven the experience for you. You know, smelling things, you're tasting things, you're watching how things change, and it will really help you learn and really develop your intuition in the kitchen. Okay. And now I'm going to add my spinach. I'm going to add it in two stages, really, just to start wilting it. Now, say if you wanted to make this ahead of time and then finish it when you're ready for dinner, I would do everything up into basically that point. And then when you're ready for dinner, you can reheat the sauce, add your spinach to wilt it, and then add your cheese and add your shrimp back in. That way nothing will overcook as you're reheating it, and it'll taste still just as fresh and delicious. But it'll set yourself up for, you know, a quick, easy serving time when you're ready to serve dinner, or cook time when you're ready to serve dinner. Okay, and now to add our cheese. Now I didn't season it right now because I wanted to add the cheese first. Since Parmesan is a saltier cheese, it's going to add some of that salinity to the dish. And then we're going to taste it and then season with salt and pepper. Doesn't need too much salt, just a little pinch. And then some pepper. Bring it all together. All right, that is looking good. I'm going to turn the heat off. And now for our basil, we're going to do a little chiffonade. So for a chiffonade, it's too much. I'll take half. Take a stack of basil, remove the stems. Starting from the tip, I'm going to roll it as tight as I can. The smaller leaves are a little harder to do that, to roll it tightly. And then we're just going to slice and roll the little ribbons. A couple bigger ones here. Give that another stir. And then we're going to plate it up. You can toss your shrimp back in there now. I only did probably about like half the amount of shrimp that I would have normally done for this, but that's because I'm not going to eat it all tonight. So I'm going to just cook more shrimp to add to it tomorrow, just in case you're noticing that my shrimp don't look like a lot. I'd rather not overcook my shrimp. That's another thing. So if you are going to use the sauce for another time, I would cook some shrimp separately as well, or not put it in the sauce so you don't have to reheat that. Okay, I've got some rice here. You can use whatever kind of rice you want. Some of that sauce. Should use the tongs for the shrimp. All right, wipe my bowl. And then another thing that you can do is just grate a little extra Parmesan on top, because who doesn't like more cheese? And you can garnish it with some fresh basil as well. I'm just picking this apart. But if you have the smaller leaves, those look really pretty on top as well. And there is your dinner for tonight. So enjoy. I know you don't get the full picture of it right now, but it's delicious. This is what the whole thing looks like, if you can see. It's hard. I don't want to spill it. But thank you for joining me tonight. As always, please comment down below. Let me know any other recipes that you want to see. Super quick dinner. This was done in less than 30 minutes. And it's almost like you're eating a gourmet meal at home. So please enjoy. I'd love to see if you make this. Please, again, tag me as well on Instagram at Chef Mani, or you can always send me a DM there on Facebook at Chef Monica Glass, YouTube, as well as my website, www.chefmonicaglass.com. And thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful night and happy eating.